This conference will now be recorded.
Here we go.
Did we just lose Chris?
Want me to call to order again? Huh?
Sure.
Just lost Chris.
Okay. I'll call the meeting of the Cottage Grove Joint Fire District Commission meeting to order. It is 6:35 PM on Monday, July 29th. We have a quorum present. The agendas were posted. And do we have anybody from the public here? Does not look like it. Discuss and consider the minutes of our June 24th meeting.
I'll move approval as presented.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 5, discuss the carbon monoxide monitoring in the apparatus bay.
I've not gotten anything from General Engineering.
Okay,
I'll remind them again.
who from general engineering would be handling that?
Jim handed it off to someone else in their office. I don't know who that does commercial.
Okay.
I talked to him once and told him what I needed.
Oh, so you have had at least initial conversation
Yeah,
with
2
him.
months ago.
Wow. Okay. Well,
So we'll put that on again.
next month.
Okay.
Discuss and excuse me, discuss and consider proposals to replace the lighting in the ESB.
So this one, we had Devin join us because he actually met with the two contractors on this. The building itself, all the lighting is pretty much original to the building. So there's a lot of lights out. What's been happening as they've been going bad is we've been replacing the bulbs with the LED replacements that still use the ballast. That seems to work for a little while, and then the ballast dies, and then the whole light fixture goes dark. So then we got prices from a couple contractors to just start replacing the lights with the appropriate ones so we can get rid of the ballast and switch to LEDs so it's more energy efficient, and so we don't have lights out all over the station. So let Devin.
And Devin isn't going to talk because he's on a call.
Oh.
Like literally when the meeting started, they got a call. So he tried to bring in, I think he brought in 3 contractors, but we only got 2 quotes from 2 of them. One of the quotes was a complete upgrade of fixtures, and they have a second quote of just the lights. I know as a, for instance, like in my office, we changed from fluorescent bulbs to the LED replacement bulbs, which were done as kind of the intermediary, thinking we could buy us a few more years. But as it turns out, the lights work when they want to. Sometimes they turn on, sometimes they don't. They seem to work best at about 10 a.m. I really need the light at about 7:45, 8 o'clock when I get into the office. And it's very similar throughout the building. If you were to go in the meeting room at any given time, even though the light switches are on, only half of them work. I think we tried to go through and be as easy on the budget as we could, but then it was just like with so many lighting problems, it just became easier to see what the big swing was going to be. So that's what the 2 quotes you have are.
Well, Electrical Solutions was really confusing. I mean, it's all divided up.
Yeah, so they tried to give it as options, like if you wanted to do it in stages instead of just doing the whole building. It's going to be a pretty big cost to hit the whole building in one shot. So his idea was to break it down by each section. So if it was more, feasible financially for the municipality, if they could do it in sections, you could see
How do you
that.
prefer it to be done? Just all in one shot?
I mean, that would obviously be the easiest, but obviously there's a big cost to that and it wasn't planned, you know, like it's. And I mean, this is gonna have to probably go into the capital budget for the building, I would think. So,
For next year?
yeah,
It's $16,000, basically.
that was for
Nichols.
Nichols. I know like there's some areas right now that are really bad, like where car 79's parked, I think there's like 4 or 5 fixtures and I think there's literally like 1 light bulb working now. So it's pretty dark down there in the basement.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I think between our discussion between Nick, myself and Devin, we didn't know what direction you guys were gonna want, and we felt it was easier to have pieces of the bid, or if you just combine them all, one big bid, so that you could make decisions on what you did or didn't want to fund at any given time. Knowing that with the building approaching 30 years and the majority of those being original fixtures, eventually they were all gonna need to be upgraded.
Could you get by until January 1st?
Well, I think like Nick said, it'd be super nice if in the basement we had some of those fixtures repaired. I think we brought in the town guys and they fixed one of them and it kind of works. And we open the garage door if we actually need to see anything, but we've managed to this point and we will continue to manage, I guess, is the best answer.
Does Focus on Energy have any grants available that we could apply for?
I did not think to look at that, but certainly could.
I haven't looked either. I'd have to look at that too. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, we can check it out.
I mean, if we're thinking about delaying it until after January, you know, I would think that you'd have plenty of time to get.
Yeah, my best answer is it hasn't abruptly gotten worse. It's slowly over the course of time. And I would say that the lighting in these areas has been similar for close to a year already. The process to get these quotes is literally, I think, taken 6 months to finally get some of them back.
You mentioned the basement. I mean, is that a safety hazard though, if you can't see?
Um,
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
To answer your question directly, yes, there's enough light so you're not going to trip on something. But we don't actively work down there. If we need more light, we do it during the day or bring light with us. The rehab trailer has lights in it we can turn on. So
Yeah, what we're finding too with like, I've actually noticed when we're doing the LED conversions, that keeps the ballast in place. It seems like when the generator does its generator test and the transfer switch kicks in, that's when the majority of the ballasts are failing. Like we had all the lights working in the meeting room, and then like the next time we did the generator test, like a third of the lights don't work anymore because the transfer from line voltage to the
Generator.
over the generator, that flicker was enough to, I guess, finish off the
Didn't
ballast.
trip the ballast
No,
or the
not the
breaker.
breakers, no.
and as an example, the bay is already converted to LED, so that isn't part of this. The front foyer entry area.
What's that?
Do we have an electrician in the volunteers?
Mike, but that's, I mean, if you're talking about doing the whole building,
That's
that's a big
a lot of
project.
work.
You know, that's something, you know, so. I don't know if he's got the time to do the whole building or not. I mean, he works a lot with electrical solutions, so.
I think another component that Mike wouldn't have available would be recycling of the stuff that we would need to recycle, like the ballast. Mike would have to figure out a way to manage that. Whereas Electrical Solutions is going to come in and take those things away with them.
Did you total up the electrical solutions bids?
I looked at them enough to know that there was a lot of money needed for them. I didn't actually total them
Well,
up.
I mean, what was it? Nichols was 23, you said, Chris?
Yeah.
I was gonna do that and forgot.
I'm just gonna text Devin to see if he totaled up Electrical Solutions.
Electrical Solutions always had an option for different fixtures.
Yeah, I think Electrical Solutions
What's different about the fixture?
Well, I think the first person that came in is the one that didn't submit. And they had suggested that potentially changing fixtures might be less expensive than simply unwiring the ballasts and putting in direct wire bulbs. But ultimately, they didn't submit. So as Devin went through and got bids for everyone else, he suggested that, hey, let's get a bid for what it is to completely replace the fixtures and what it is to just make them work with new LED bulbs.
Because I guess I have no idea what parabolic fixtures are.
Yeah, I would suspect that it's something that parabolic is the lens in it that focuses the energy more down.
Okay, Devin just texted me back and says that, well, they're on a call right now.
Yeah.
But
Prismatic
he, huh?
fixtures. They were going to go to prismatic fixtures as the alternative from parabolic. In Electrical Solutions bid.
Dev says that
Something like that.
Electrical Solutions total was, his words exactly, a couple of $1,000s more than Nichols.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, it's 25, 38, 14, 2 at 1,000, another 1,000, another 174, another 1,000, another 1177. I mean, that's, I would think it would be a lot more expensive than Nichols.
Well, I guess I would think we need to put it in the capital budget for next year.
Yeah.
We certainly don't have it in this year's budget.
Yeah, I guess I didn't figure you guys would go in and buy it right this second. I guess I wanted to put it in front of you guys, could start talking about it. And if it needed to go into capital funds, that makes sense. And if you wanted to just do parts of it, like if you
What
wanted to
about just like,
mean level first or
Nichols
something.
do it for just the basement? I mean, for a safety issue first and then wait until after January 1st to do everything else.
Not a safety issue.
I don't use a basement, it's Chief Lang that's got it.
And he's got a bandaged leg, so
Yeah.
give him a break.
Yeah, I guess we based our whole career off of walking the line of safe and not safe. So it's safe enough as it stands.
As it stands right now.
Yeah, I think if something changes, we can always, either the town or village can come and direct wire in some more bulbs. Is the interim solution.
Right.
And move, we hold off until January 1st and see what, and put it in the,
Add it to the,
add it
add
to
to the 25 budget for discussion.
Okay.
For the ESB budget.
to the
We
budget
wanna-
discussion.
We want to discuss it for the 25 budget to see if village and town can afford it.
Okay,
If we can, then it's in the 25 budget. That all passes both of us.
Yeah, and if needed, then you could decide on what number you could spend
comfortable
and we
with.
could adjust as necessary.
Yeah. Which level do you do first? I would second your motion.
okay, so my motion is that we put it in the capital budget and discuss it
For
for
2025.
2025
For the ESB,
for the whole building.
the emergency services
Yeah.
program. Motion and a second. Does everyone understand? If so, all those in favor of Mike's motion
Aye.
signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Did Chris leave the meeting?
No, I'm here. I said aye for in favor.
Did you vote yes then, Chris?
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right, anything else we want to discuss about this before moving on? All right, next item, discuss and consider invoice to upgrade the ESB wireless and internet network.
Back in, I think it was May, we approved $1,500 for that. But when Horseman was done with it, it was $184.98 above that. So, I mean, I paid it, but I need us to, the committee to approve using the funds
To pay the overage?
to pay that overage because the work is done.
Yeah, I can explain where the overage came from. So they had all the materials in stock. They came to install it. They installed the VPN. They were doing the router and the switch. They installed it. And before they got to issuing on VPNs, they asked about a static IP. And at the time, we didn't have one.
Okay.
No. When we installed the phone system, they suggested we have a static IP, and we're like, no, we'll just tell you what the IP is when you need to make adjustments. Well, not knowing anything about computers, at least that in depth, when Horseman came in and said, well, you can roll the dice on the VPN, but if the IP address were to change, we might have to come back and redo some of the work that we've done already. So rather than risk needing to lose access and having to redo some of the work at what point in time we might never know, we added a static IP, so Horseman had 2 extra hours of labor to come in and work with TDS to fix or manage the modem to make the static IP work, and then connect it to the router and the switch for static IP, and then finish the VPN product. So it was about 2 hours worth of labor, not any other component.
So we're only approving then $185.
Whatever the overage was.
And you said that we have that in the,
We had approved 1,500 and it came in at $1,684.98. So it's $184.98 higher than what we approved. So I'm asking us to approve that now.
emergency funds or?
It came out of the ESOB repair fund. I would make that motion that we approve the expenditure of the $184.98 overage for Horseman to come out of the ESB repair fund.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve $184.98 above and beyond the $1,500 original dollars that were allocated for the repair. Any discussion? Oh, I should note that the bill has already been paid. You might want to.
Yeah, it was due within 30 days, so
Okay, yeah.
and it came just before our last meeting, so I told Sarah that we needed it on this one to
Okay,
dot our i's and cross our t's.
gotcha. All right, heard everything. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
thank you.
Chief's report.
I could interject quickly about the electrical things just to be prepared is Electrical Solutions was a 5-day quote and Nichols was a 30-day quote. So when we come to discussions, we'll check back in with them to make sure there haven't been any large changes in their price.
They have all the parts though and everything?
I would say probably not. I would say that depending upon what they might have, like if we do the direct wire, they might have those. But if we chose a different solution, they probably wouldn't have those. Looking at some of these were LED panels and whatnot. So for both of them, the statement that is made is due to volatility in our supply chain, approval is needed. So when the discussion happens, we'll see if we can get a, like, so if you're going for temp, like the budget gonna need to be submitted by October 1st, we'll see if we can get a quote in that area to then maybe have them say, hey, can you honor this till the first of the year?
Okay.
Because we wouldn't be able to physically approve it knowing each municipality's budget cycle until very early December.
Right.
Chief, you're up.
All right, so staff, we're sitting at 44 people. That's 12 officers, 3 drivers, 25 firefighters, and 4 probationary members. Department is currently at 222 calls plus 1 exposure. If it continues at that rate, we'd finish the year about 391 calls for service.
Is that average or
That's high.
high?
Last year was our highest year. I think we finished at 345, 346.
Yeah.
So it'd be about 50 calls more than we had last year. If it keeps up at that rate.
To infinity and beyond.
So,
What type of calls are you seeing?
so the breakdowns are kind of below there. The big ones are, so rescue encompasses like car accidents and other accidents that involve injuries. And it also includes the EMS services. So overall, that's our biggest call right now, 40% of our total call volume. When we split it down by the municipalities in the town, it's 60%, 59.6% of the call volume, 50% of Pleasant Springs, and 31.9 in the village. So that's our biggest one. We're still getting a lot of false alarms, fire alarms. What we're seeing a lot of, we're not really seeing the commercial ones as much anymore. Those have kind of tapered off, luckily. We're still getting them every once in a while, but the big ones now are like, seems like everybody has ADT or some kind of home alarm system, and they're all getting into the age where they trip and then they call 911 and the person doesn't answer their phone. So then the ADT calls us right away. We get like halfway there and we get canceled. So that's a big uptick in those ones. So.
Do you have limits for residential false alarms per residence, like you do for the commercial stuff?
Not for the residential stuff.
Also, our ordinance is the same for everybody.
It's for commercial and
That's a village ordinance,
residential.
isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's the same for everybody, but when you have, typically we don't get duplicate false activations at residences, because once we're there and we say, hey, you guys need to swap out your batteries, or you need to make sure ADT calls you and you answer the phone when they call you, they usually don't make that mistake again twice, because
Okay.
they feel really stupid when the fire truck shows up. So like they feel dumb about their batteries, or they feel dumb about not answering the phone for ADT. And so the chance of them making that mistake a second time within a 1-year period is pretty much like zero, very rare. So the ordinance isn't really going to end up hitting them or applying to them. It's just that our population is increasing and we have a lot of different generations that aren't maybe experienced or aren't familiar with smoke detectors or replacing batteries or just that technology that's in their occupancies. So it's a lot of education that we're providing on site in that moment when we're called out. We're also doing a lot of pub ed. If you follow our Facebook page, we're regularly posting up about batteries and understanding smoke detectors. Even if we get a call that involves a smoke detector, we'll post something up on Facebook to talk about that call and that smoke detector and changing your batteries and understanding, like, you got to swap out your smoke detector after 7 to 10 years. They're garbage after that. And that's another thing, like we go on calls and we find out, we'll go look at the smoke detectors and most of them are 7 to 10 years old. And that's why they're ineffective. That's why they're tripping. And people aren't familiar with the sounds of the different chirps in them, what a chirp means versus an alarm. So they're calling us for chirps. for bad batteries or bad detectors. And so we're going out a lot for those types of calls.
Any other questions about them before I move on to the call breakdown is 25 mutual aid, 97 in the village, 48 in Pleasant Springs, and 52 in the town of Cottage Grove. We've got the different charts for how the call volume breaks down, and then the calls by hour and calls by day. Seems like Tuesday right now is our runaway day. Seems to
Any
be the
reason?
most calls.
Because they have training.
Actually, I think most of our bad weather incidents are happening on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And so we get hit with sometimes 5 to 8 calls all on a Tuesday evening or Tuesday day, and it's all related to a weather event.
Apparatus info, the new squad's still being built. We just got the latest pictures of it. Chassis is pretty much done being built. The box is built. They just painted the box. They're still estimating mid-September for the squad. Once it finishes in Appleton, it'll go to Reliant Fire and Slinger, and they'll do all the tool boards and the mounts and all the stuff. So it'll go right from Appleton to Slinger. They'll have it for just under a week, and then it'll come here. It'll be ready to go. All the equipment will go right into the truck. New one will go into place. The old one will go get ready to be sold, basically. So no updates on the equipment, but there's inspections are coming up. They're gonna do the ladders here pretty soon, and the trucks will be coming up here in a few months. Training in July was hot drills, real hot drills. So we went out to the Lotus Lane area in the town and simulated structure fire responses for non-hydrant areas. August is going to be standpipes and advanced fire attack. And tomorrow we're actually going to be doing turbo draft down at the lake, where we're pulling water out of the lake and doing fire attack from there. We participated in marketplace days last week. And our firefighter for a day event's coming up on August 17th, open to teenagers aged 13 to 18. 2 staff milestones. One was Tim Miller with 10 years and Mitch Strela with 5 years.
Any questions on the chief's report?
So September, October timeframe, should we have on the agenda what we're going to do with the old squad then, I suppose? Decide if we're going to,
Do you want to do that actually in the August one so that, like, let's say it comes early September, you don't have to have the squad sitting outside sitting outside for a month?
Yeah, it makes no difference to me.
I'd say put it on next month's
Sure.
agenda.
You got it down.
All right. Next item. Discuss the festival update.
It was a good year, everything seemed to go well, things functioned as they should, and weather cooperated, and it was another good year, so. that's where we're
I
at.
think the car show was a big hit with folks.
Yep, I think they said, was it like 75 participants?
I think it was over 80,
80?
and we're hoping for at least 25% plus more of that for the next year. So in the hundreds, 120 maybe next year would be really cool, because we've got the parking spots for it in the room.
Yeah, because I mean, if I recall correctly, there wasn't that much advance notice compared to everything else festival related. And perhaps if it gets the same
I think it was a
exposure,
combination of that and the weather that morning. There was rain, and so there was a delay in people coming out because of there was like a storm or weather that morning of the
Yeah.
car show. But it was great. Yeah, I think we all enjoyed
I enjoyed it.
coming up with something different and seeing people.
Helps that you won.
What?
Helps that you won.
Well, one of them did, yeah.
Oh, you won the car thing?
One of them, yeah. I brought, just to help out. I mean, it's not like I don't have any cars. I brought 3 of them down, just to help fill up. I had no idea, nobody really knew whether, how much of a participation or turnout there would be, so. Yeah, it turns out my race car was the big hit down there, so. It's all right. I mean, I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Steve.
Next item, discuss and consider next meeting date and the agenda items.
I've got it 8/23 at 6:30,
8/26.
8/26.
You want it on a Monday?
Okay, budget, CO monitoring and sale of the old squad.
So I was looking back, we did the budget in September last year. So do we want to do it in August or do you want to do it in September? Do you know what the village's budget timeline is? What they're looking for having?
I don't know.
So you don't
Does
want to
Chris
do the
know?
budget?
Chris, no?
I'm not sure.
Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm not sure when it is.
So
Let's shoot for September.
September.
it's fine.
Yeah, so the next meeting, there's a couple agenda items that we thought of. One is gonna be to discuss private ambulance service. Nothing to do with Deer Grove. Just a brief overview. We have a patient that was transferred to hospice and now there's a private ambulance company that is providing coverage to take care of that person. And they can't fulfill the obligations, so they're calling the fire department to help with the lifting. Where they're a for-profit ambulance service, should they be calling the fire
Charge 'em.
department or should they be?
Charge them, yeah.
So I guess we should discuss and consider that at the next meeting.
I'd like to hear some more particulars as to, do you know much about it, chief?
I know of the one occurrence. And Nick and I talked about it and I was like, exactly what Nick said, is they're a for-profit company that took a call that should have generated them profit. If they needed extra resources, they should have provided it for themselves is my opinion. I was cautious to say to Nick, you don't want to get into that argument the moment they call. So this would be something administratively that hopefully there could be, you guys make an opinion at the committee level and then have a discussion with the brothers, or excuse me, whomever.
I didn't know if it was the R folks or the S folks.
But it could be anybody. It just so happened to be one agency at this point, but their business model is to have 2 responders either pick someone up from a home and then take them maybe to an appointment or bring them home. But all of those are under the for-profit arrangement. So if there was extra resources needed, the thought should be on the front side that, hey, either provide it for yourself or we're gonna have to
Charge you.
Yeah.
there's gonna have to be a service fee. Unless there's some form of extreme circumstance that they could identify.
Fire department doesn't have a means to transport people.
Right, they weren't necessarily calling to transport the people. It was needed assistance in moving from one spot on the property to the ambulance or vice versa.
Oh,
So it could be someone coming home. I also mentioned to Nick, at my former employer, we had a patient that was very similar to this that needed a lot of assistance from the fire department when they'd come home from whatever hospital they were at. So it's not something that is rare. It does occur. I guess it is rare. It's not a regular occurrence, but hopefully that you guys can make an opinion and then share that with the local private ambulance service community.
Be nice to come up collectively with a policy, for the for-profits.
charge.
Yeah, so I
Well,
guess I would just
I'm
make
not
it,
disagreeing with you, Chris, but I'm just
I guess
You know,
I'm
I
just
think we need
looking
to
to
have
put it on the
something.
agenda so you guys we can put something together. We could talk about it with Chief Lang and ourselves.
I
It'd
think
be
the
something
thing,
for you guys to review, but it's not really on the agenda today, so.
yeah, the thing to ponder for next month would be, there, any of the services that are being provided for these folks that might call for assistance effectively work off of an à la carte model. And this is very similar to nursing homes that would get a lift assist bill from the local EMS or fire departments. Is ultimately the resident is going to pay for that, whether it be directly for the service they provided or as an a la carte fee that gets added on at the end of the day. So the goal would be to limit the need of the fire department to have to do these things while also limiting the overall financial effect to the resident.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, that was the question I was gonna ask. The person's on hospice, you said, right? Yeah.
It may never happen again, and it's probably good to have something to give guidance for both Nick and I on how.
It has happened in the past with a different individual, so this happened a few times, Justin,
Okay.
so it's a good thing to figure out a plan going forward, I guess.
And don't get us wrong, we are always there to help, especially when there's an emergency and there's an emergency need and the request for fire comes in and there's an emergent need to support EMS services. No issues or concerns with that. I think it's just the question of the structure and the procedure and the process and making sure that the fire department is doing exactly what
I guess
is expected of us.
in this particular case, from what you all know, should there have been a reasonable assumption that the service should have provided additional personnel given where the patient was going to and or coming from? Okay. All the more reason,
We've been there a few times.
Yeah, I think there's some layers to it of maybe they were provided the exact resource that was requested by hospice. Maybe that agency had never been to that home before. Unlikely, because when we as the 911 provider transport people to the hospital, someone that can't generally maneuver themselves has to get away home, and it's generally not going to be by their own auto. It's going to be by another ambulance service. We don't bring people home, we transport people just to the hospital. So at some point in time, I'm sure that there's a relative familiarity with this person and potential for the agency to know what they were getting into before they got into it. So,
and this was an ambulance service as opposed to a medical transfer van kind of thing.
I assume, yeah.
Can I just think this is turning into a bit of a discussion. It's not on the agenda tonight, so we should just be sure to put it on the next agenda.
Yep.
It's an important thing. I just it's not on the agenda.
No, I agree.
Yeah, trying to be super vague and not engage in too much conversation, Chris.
Thank you.
But the only thing I'll say is just the fact that having a few more details like we've just discussed is enough to start thinking about, having some details or some facts concerning it, will lead to a better thought process for the next month.
Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Not debatable. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chris? Yes. Oh, was that an aye or?
Yes. Thanks, everyone. See you next month.
You bet.
Take care.
Are we out, Chris? Not yet?